Welcome back to the Rundown, and now to Washington. Yet another member of President Donald Trump's cabinet is out. That is the third in just the space of a week, and the eighth official or aide to be fired or to resign in the past month. This time is Veterans Affairs Secretary David Shulkin. He's leaving amid an ethics scandal, but his likely replacement is already raising questions and concerns. Tara Palmieri has the latest.
President Trump fired his controversial Secretary of Veteran Affairs, David Shulkin, nominating White House Dr. Admiral Ronnie Jackson as his replacement. For months, sources say Trump privately fumed about Shulkin, following an Inspector General report that reveals he brought his wife on a European tour where they watched a Wimbledon match, costing taxpayers $122,000. Despite being a rare Obama administration holdover, President Trump praised his cabinet secretary, who was confirmed unanimously by the Senate.
I also want to express our appreciation for Secretary Shulkin, who is implementing the dramatic reform throughout the VA.
Not going out quietly, Shulkin told NPR his firing was a political attack.
There are many political appointees in the VA that believe that we're moving in the wrong direction or weren't moving fast enough towards privatizing the VA.
He blames the administration for not letting him defend himself after the damaging Inspector General report.
I think that this was really just being used in a political context to try to make sure that I wasn't as effective as a leader moving forward.
Jackson is the first non-veteran to head the VA. He also has little management experience, as he's asked to lead the second largest government agency after the Pentagon. His appointment comes after his glowing review of the president's health.
I told the president that if he had a healthier diet over the last 20 years, he might live to be 200 years old.
Well, for more, we're joined in the studio by our senior international affairs correspondent, Owen Alterman. But first, let's go to Washington and the State Department and speak with our senior diplomatic correspondent, Nina Larsen. And Nina, certainly veteran affairs, an important part of the government, but where you are, especially in the State Department, there has been a changeover, and of course, we're looking also at that National Security Advisor changeover, which really raises questions about the foreign affairs policy of the White House going forward.
That's correct. Diplomats are well used to this, though, Calev. This has been a very turbulent year in the Trump administration. I just want to point out a bit of breaking news that we have now, actually. The Associated Press is reporting that Russia is going to match the number of diplomats that the U.S. and other countries have expelled. This is a developing story, but we'll be monitoring it here at the State Department, and we'll expect some kind of U.S. reaction in the coming hour or so.
Nina, you point to that important news. We're going to look a little bit closer at that also later in the show, Russia's tit for tat. But also in that issue, a question of what the policy is from the White House, who is really deciding, who is holding the reins now that there is so much influx, as Calev mentioned, not only in Veterans Affairs, but certainly in everybody who's very relevant to foreign policy.
That's right, and at the moment we simply don't have a Secretary of State. Mike Pompeo, the former CIA director, is meant to fill Rex Tillerson's shoes, but he has to go through a confirmation process in the Senate. That's slated to be in a couple of weeks, around April 12th, April 17th, around that time. And we have this very important summit coming up involving the US and North Korea. So it is a very turbulent time. It's been very difficult for diplomats and world leaders to create any long-term policy and strategy regarding the United States, because there has been such a shake-up. This Veterans Affairs change is not a surprise, but there were reports from the White House that close aides of President Trump are quite disturbed by his choice. He's choosing Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's his personal physician at the White House. This is someone who has a naval background and has been the White House doctor for many years. He worked with Obama as well. But he has absolutely zero management experience. So again, we're seeing that Trump really values loyalty, it seems, and personal chemistry over experience. And this is what people are used to now in Washington, this continual changing of the guard at cabinet level and in other posts. So yes, it's very, very unstable.
Owen, Nina mentioned this upcoming Korea summit. with Kim Jong-un and planned with President Trump. But even before that, April 27th, we have Moon Jae-in, the president of South Korea, meeting Kim at a time when there isn't even a U.S. ambassador in South Korea. So much on the plate, especially this potentially explosive issue.
You're absolutely right, Calev. Again, April 27th, Moon Jae-in, the South Korean president, will meet with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Panmunjom on the border. It'll actually be, it sounds like, on the South Korean side of the border. So Kim Jong-un will actually be in South Korea for that meeting. It will be fascinating to watch. But you're right. Look, the Trump administration has to prepare for the summit in May at a time of a lot of flux within the administration and at a time when the North Koreans are showing that they have a strategy for these talks to try to play China against the United States, potentially South Korea against the United States, going to China again this week in that armored train to show the United States that North Korea still has a strong relationship with China, but also showing the Chinese that this summit is still on the agenda and the North Koreans could come closer to the United States. Again, if you believe, as I do, that this denuclearization is simply not on the agenda, that North Korea and the United States are going to go into a period of deterrence, but that doesn't mean there won't be some kind of a deal and some kind of bargaining, and Kim Jong-un is positioning himself for that bargaining in a potentially impressive way.
Nina, if we're talking about countries and leaders positioning themselves, and certainly China is on top of that list too, I'm guessing it's no coincidence that Beijing was the sort of precursor to the next meeting that we're going to see. What is China's goal here, other than, of course, just being a big part of those negotiations?
Well, really, Xi is asserting his role on the world stage. Just recently, he has been sanctioned as president for life in China. So this is why he's inserting himself partly in this process. The future of the possible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula is an absolute #1 priority for the entire region and for the world. We're really seeing Beijing assert itself as a leader in this, but we're also seeing a very, very carefully choreographed process in the region, which suggests that this summit is going to be taken very seriously, and it does suggest that the North Koreans are ready to come to the table in some kind of credible way. As Owen pointed out, there's going to be this summit in the next couple of weeks between the North and the South. There has not been a summit of the leadership of those two countries for the past 10 years. It's also significant that Kim will step into the southern part of that peace village in the DMZ. That's very new as well. And Japan is trying to involve themselves as well. President Abe will be over meeting President Trump at Mar-a-Lago in Florida in just a couple of weeks. So we're seeing all the major players in this process that have vested interest in security on that peninsula, paving the way for this summit between the U.S. and North Korea.
And Owen, briefly, a lot of these summits are about expectations. You say denuclearization is off the table, but surely something solid has to come out of it, or else it's going to be surely a disappointment. President Trump's going to want to have something to show for meeting Kim.
You know, Calev, when this summit was announced, the convention of wisdom is that it would potentially be a disaster, because if the summit were allowed to fail, then it could simply make the situation worse. Taking the temperature, first of all, I never believed in that theory, but taking the temperature in the last few weeks, it seems the conventional wisdom has changed, that these two leaders will find some way for that not to happen. And again, that even though it's unconventional to have the leaders meet first and then the negotiations take place after, that is a plausible way for this to play out, and that it could lead to some more stability in the region.
Right, Nina mentioned choreography. Already next week, the two Koreas will be meeting again to choreograph every moment, media coverage, how everything's going to look. Certainly that has a lot of meaning for a meeting like this. Nina Larsen, Owen Alterman, stay with us after